evening, good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to Hathor Hosts live here on YouTube. My goodness, we actually did it. I am so excited to be here tonight, to be chatting to you guys, and also to be bringing you our new shiny, because we're so shiny, new show. And just to give you an idea of what Hathor Hosts hopefully will be looking like as we move into the future. Tonight, or this afternoon in his case, I am beyond excited to welcome somebody who I met several years ago at a convention, and I just kind of went, I want to hang out with him. Funny, fun, talented, charming, the full package. Of course, better known as Dr. Carson Beckett in Stargate Atlantis, but there is so much more to Paul McGillion, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome him into the studio now. Good evening, Paul, or good afternoon.
Good evening to you, my friend. Pleasure to be here. I got to tell you, that intro was amazing. I'm kind of frightened, yet turned on at the same time, so it's kind of crazy.
Excellent. It's working. I have to tell you about that video. I actually put it out to all the fans, and I said if anybody wanted to create a kind of theme for Hathor Hosts, and a lady called Corinne came up with this incredible video and that amazing theme, and all the music actually played tonight has been created by people who have supported and endorsed Hathor Hosts, and I mean, so talented.
It's so great. I just want to. It makes me want to go to Egypt. I just love it.
Makes me want to go anywhere.
Yeah, it makes you want to go anywhere nowadays. Yeah.
I'm just
thank you so much for having me.
Well, Paul, welcome to Hathor Hosts. It is such a delight to have you on the show. And how are you? How's your day going?
I'm fantastic. I'm doing great. You know, we're here in Vancouver, and it's a beautiful day. You know, my children are in a day camp, which is great. I've been, you know, watching them for 3.5 months since the old COVID things happened. So it's really nice to get a little break. But they're amazing, and I have the home to myself today. So this is perfect timing. This is great.
Oh, yes. I know. I've had lots of guests say to me, what happens if my children come in halfway through? I'm like, great. It's live TV, you know, so fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's part of it. But they won't be here. At least I hope not.
So, yes, enjoy the house while you can. You're king of your domain.
I can't hear you.
You can't
hear me? For some reason, I've lost audio.
Oh, dear. Okay.
Okay. Nope, you're back. I can hear you. Yeah. Sorry, I missed that.
No, I was just going to say, so you're king of your domain for the day, and that's fantastic.
And that's about it. Yeah.
So we're going to jump straight on in. And you were born in Paisley in Scotland. And
that's right.
That's right. And you're one of 7 children.
Me?
I said you're one of 7 children. Good Catholics, were you?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm one of 7, 6 boys, 1 girl in the family.
Wow.
Yeah. The girl's the middle. My oldest brother was born in Scotland. And then my family moved to Ireland and had 4 more children in Dublin and in Donegal. And then they moved back to Scotland, had me. And then they moved to Canada, had my younger brother, Mike. So he's the only one born in Canada.
Oh, wow. So a big, like the Von Trapps, well, without the singing.
Without, yeah, no singing. And I just talked to my parents this morning. My dad just turned 88. My mom's 86, and they've been married for, I guess, 68 years this year.
Oh, congratulations. That's amazing.
I know. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Something to inspire us and to aspire to.
I know. Exactly. Exactly.
Because you got married relatively recently, didn't you?
10 years this year.
Very September. Yeah, congratulations. I'm liking the on-brand mug as well.
Oh, yeah. Yes, this is a little, this is for my dear friend David Hewlett. So.
Yay. So, yes, you were born in Paisley, but you moved to Canada when you were about 2, although you have been back to Scotland several times, and it plays an important part, your heritage, in your work. What are your favorite things about Scotland?
Well, first of all, you know, I came over when I was about 2.5, and then when I was 12, my parents moved back to Scotland again with the 4 youngest kids. So I lived in Scotland from the time I was 12 till I was 15 again, and then back to Canada again. So they wanted to open up a Airbnb or something like that, and in Saltire, and the older kids were sort of Canadianized by then, and they weren't really taking to it as well as my parents would have hoped. And so they moved back to Canada again. My dad bought a farm out of the blue. So we live in Niagara-on-the-Lake in Ontario, a beautiful area right by Niagara Falls. So that was a big thing. But back to your question, the Scottish people, the sensibility, it's just, I always feel like I'm home when I'm there. They wear their hearts on their sleeves, you know, and I think that's the greatest thing about them. I still have a lot of relatives there. I get back as much as possible. And anytime, you know, it's always a great feeling when I go back there, you know.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I love it.
So tell us what you were like as a kid. What was Paul McGillion like as a little boy or a young man?
A wee shit. No. A cheeky little bugger. Absolutely. We're all rambunctious kids, you know. I was number 6 out of 7. So when I was born, I came out and I had a lot of hair. I had a big head of hair on me when I was born. A really big head of hair. And actually, it's kind of funny. I'll show the fans something because I just saw this the other day, and I showed my wife, and she just got a real kick out of this. Let me just find it for a second. So when I came out of the womb, I had a huge head of hair, and the Beatles were very popular at the time. And when I popped up, my mom said, "Look at the head of hair on him, for God's sakes. We'll call him Paul. He's like a wee beetle." So they call me Paul.
I love that. So obviously, parents are big Beatle fans.
Yeah, we grew up with the Beatles, you know, and Cat Stevens and Rod Stewart. And I think the fans are like this. This is something a lot of people have never seen.
Oh, wait, hold it up. There you go. Oh my, is that you?
That's me as a wee baby.
Oh, look at all that hair. I cannot believe that.
He'd doing new.
That is absolutely glorious.
Is that funny?
No,
it looks like my daughter. You know, I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but
well, I don't know if it's a good thing for her.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just so you came from this big family. Do you think that's kind of why you got into acting? Because you sort of had to be rambunctious, as you said, to be heard and to get attention. You had to be like, you know, notice me.
Yeah, probably. I mean, in certain ways, you know, I'm the only actor in the family. And, you know, I played a lot of sports as a kid. And we were always very active family and just, you know, always having fun and doing I remember doing my brother and I had these matching red tracksuits because we did a lot of gymnastics when we were kids. And we still joke about it now. And there's tight little red tracksuits with little hooks on the feet. And when relatives would come over, like my Uncle Willie and my Aunt Ann and the company would come over, my parents would sit on the couch and we'd do little routines for them. We'd do all these dive rolls and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And we'd do all these little things. And I'd run at my brother and he'd catch me. He'd go, alley-oop, and he'd catch me and roll around the ground. And my dad, after a while, would be like, all right, that's it. Get downstairs. And that was that sort of thing. But I think, yeah, I mean, it's a big family. There's a lot of big personalities in my family too. It's very diverse, you know, from doctors to teachers to an actor to electricians, you know. So it's a very diverse group in my family, and yeah. So I guess that added to it. Often, you know, take your own experiences into acting, and I think I've tapped into that many times with my family.
But interestingly, when you graduated from high school, you didn't go into drama or acting. You went university to Brock University.
I did.
And got a degree in teaching.
I did. Yeah, I was a pretty decent wrestler in high school, and then Brock University is like a big wrestling school, like freestyle wrestling. I say that, and some people think, "Oh, you're too small to be in WWE." I said, but it was a freestyle wrestling, and I went there, and that's one of the best wrestling schools in Canada. And I ended up going there and doing my degree in physical education, and then I went on to do a teaching degree at Memorial University in Newfoundland. So I did that for a year. And then I was in Toronto and I started doing, in between university degrees, a girlfriend at the time was, you know, an aspiring actress, and she was taking class. She said, "Why don't you take a class?" And I did, and I really liked it. And I started doing commercials and things like that. And then I started studying I studied quite a bit all over Toronto area. And I started doing plays and theater, and then I started getting smaller parts in TV. And then I just sunk my teeth into it a lot more for the next few years.
Yeah.
And once I got the teaching degree, I came back and I got offered full-time teaching jobs. But by then I got bitten by the acting bug, and I started taking that a little more seriously. And I just supply taught, which they call substitute teaching, maybe in the UK. And so I do that a little bit, and I got it for full-time jobs. And then I came out to Vancouver in 1993 to visit a friend of mine, Tom Cavanaugh, who's a fantastic actor. And he was out here already, and I signed up with an agent here, and then I decided to move out. And I remember telling my parents that, And my dad couldn't believe it. He was like, you've got a teaching degree. You're a teacher. Teach, for God's sakes, man. And I said, Dad, I said, you always told me no matter what you want to do, you got to love it. He goes, all right, you're right. Fair enough. And then they were worried about me, of course. That I was the only one that came here. And then once I started getting jobs on a show like The X-Files, for example, was very, very popular back then on television. And I got a part in The X-Files. And I called him and I phoned him up and said, Dad, he's like, Janet, it's my mom's name. It's Paul. How you doing, man? Yeah. Have you got any luck? I said, I got a part. That's a very popular show, The X-Files. How much do you make doing that? And I told him, and he's like, that's fantastic, the acting. That's great stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say that The X-Files was sort of your first high-profile job, really.
I guess so.
Do you remember how you felt at the time? Did you kind of think, oh, my God, I've made it? Because that first job is very special.
Well, it's funny about that because I was working as a waiter at a restaurant at the same time.
Like all good actors.
Yes, yeah, and I which is fine. And I remember it was very popular at the time, and it aired on I think it was on a Sunday night. I think it used to air on Sunday nights. I can't remember exactly, but it aired on a Sunday night. I had a decent part in the first one, and then I was serving a table on the Monday, and I said, would you like, sour cream and bacon bits on your baked potato? And he goes, were you on The X-Files last night? I go, yes, I was. Would you like sour cream and bacon bits on your baked potato? So I didn't think I made it. I thought it was a cool thing to do. I've also been very even about all of it. I just kind of take it and do my best. And but it was cool to get on that show. It's very interesting. I was on a couple episodes. The first one was called Dwayne Barry, which was a very popular episode. And I came on as an Agent Comox, his name was, and I had a scene with Gillian Anderson analyzing a brain chip, and he was sort of like a techie guy. And, they said it may be a recurring role. And I said, oh, that's great, whatever. And then I got cast in a play in Kamloops, which is in the interior of British Columbia. And I was there. And then when I was doing the rehearsals for the play, I was there for like a couple months. They called and said they want to get back on the show. And I couldn't do it because I was committed to doing the play. So a friend of mine, we became friends through this, named Brendan Beiser, he got cast as Agent Pendrell to replace me, and it's one street over in Vancouver. There's Comox and Pendrell's one street over. So he is Agent Pendrell, and he did like 12 episodes of the show. Oh. So I met him at this reading series that we did afterwards, and he goes, you play Comox. I said, he goes, thank you so much. I said, and you're Pendrell. He goes, yes. I said, okay, every episode you get, you got to buy me a beer. And he did. So that was it.
Well, it kind of worked out because little did you know, shortly after that, you appeared on Stargate SG-1 in the Tantalus, which sounds like some sort of tarantula.
Yes, it does.
And of course, you had no idea then, who knew what was to come later on in your career.
I didn't know, go ahead, sorry.
I was going to say, you were the first character to go through the gate, isn't that right?
That's right, yeah. And doing the show, I had read for a little bit, and it was the first season, right? It was in SG-1 the first season.
Yeah.
I remember reading for it. It was really kind of a sweet scene, and I got fitted for a deep sea diving suit and his vintage clothes, and it was really cool. I felt the episode went really well, and it was good. But what was happening in Vancouver as Stargate was starting to go on, they were reusing actors from Stargate in the next seasons, getting different characters, and I was like, how come I can't come back on the show as a different character, whatever? And then eventually, when I got Atlantis, Martin Wood, I asked him, we were doing the plot. I said, can I ask you a question? Because he directed second unit on that show on SG-1 on Tormented Tantalus. I said, how come he never brought me back on the show? And he goes, have you been to a convention yet? I'm like, no. And he goes, oh yeah, okay, you'll see. He goes, you were the first person to go through the gate, and I didn't really know what that meant. He goes, you have to wait until you go to a convention. And then I went to a convention, and I realized it was a really important aspect of the show, going through the gate, the first person. And then I got, Carson Beckett, and that was a really, obviously a great thing that happened.
We're obviously going to talk about that and conventions. You've actually worked on some major sci-fi shows and films throughout your career: The X-Files, Sliders, Sanctuary, Supernatural, Smallville, The Twilight Zone, Fringe, V, Tomorrowland, Star Trek, and of course Stargate SG-1 and Atlantis. Wow. Were you impressive, isn't it, when you hear it?
A lot of sci-fi.
When I was doing it, no, but lots of other things.
Yes, I know, but thank you.
Were you a fan of the genre as a kid? Was it something that you watched?
I watched Star Trek as a kid. I watched whatever my brothers would let me watch, but we always watched Star Trek religiously. and we'd watch Gilligan's Island, you know, but we'd watch Star Trek all the time, and I loved it, you know, and that's one of the reasons, you know, I'll segue into it. One of the reasons that when I read Beckett initially, at the time, they were just looking for characters with, you know, accents, a European accent, some sort of accents, and so I read the sides for the pilot. Beckett seemed to me, he was very comedic. He'd want to get in the chair and he said, I'm not getting in that bloody thing. And as soon as I read it, I'm like, it's Scottish. He's Scottish. I go, it was fun. And not that I always loved Scotty, of course, as a kid, you know. And then it was interesting because when I read for it initially, they said an accent. And my agent called me, I guess the casting director at the time, Stuart Aikens, fantastic guy. He called up and said to my agent, Jamie, said, what accent's Paul going to do? And she called me and I said, I'm going to do a Scottish accent. And then he came and then she called me back. She says, no, he doesn't want you to do a Scottish accent. I go, why not? She goes, no one will understand you. And she goes, he wants you to do an English accent. I said, well, and I've done that before for him. I said, well, you know, I just feel this guy's Scottish. I just got to do a Scottish accent, you know? And she goes, well, he doesn't like it. And he's sort of persnickety. And I'm like, okay. So I went into the audition trailer at the time on Bridge Studio on the lot. And, you know, half the people can hear you. They're sitting, it's basically like a small trailer. Yeah. And it's split in half. You've probably seen it. And there's chairs and you can hear everybody on the other side. So I walk in, he's like, so what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to do an educated Scottish accent because not, you know, I didn't want to say, but not every, you know, it's not every Scottish person sounds like they're in Train Spotting. So, you know, and so I did it and he was like, oh, immediately kind of not happy. So I did the first scene. He's like, that's good. Did the second scene. He's like, that was good. I did the last scene. He goes, that was good. Get out. And I was the first person to cast in the show. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I stuck to my guns and, you know, channeled my dad a bit and, yeah, it kind of went from there. So that was really, really cool.
It's a funny thing, isn't it? Sometimes when you, as an actor, that instinct kicks in and the essence of a character bounces right off you from the writing. And right. I'm so glad you stuck to your guns because obviously it worked out fantastically.
So am I. You know, it was one of those things where oftentimes, as you know, being an actor yourself, you know, sometimes you get sort of intimidated by the casting directors. They kind of guide you in a certain direction, and our job is to go with our gut. You know, a lot of times, and what we feel in our heart is the right thing to do. And for me, it felt like that was the right thing to do for me. And I still do that, whether it works or not. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But I think that's the only thing you have. You know, you have that ability to give them a little. I also give them a little piece of Polly and I'll walk away. And that piece of Polly in that case was a Scottish. You know, for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's about making a choice. It might not always be the right choice, but I think directors always would. If I was a director, I would absolutely appreciate that somebody coming in and going, "Yeah, I've made a choice," because then you can always tweak it if it's the wrong way. Guide them to the right way.
Sure, you're actors, right? You can change. You're malleable.
Exactly. So were they quite open to kind of adding some Scottishisms and
very much so, you know, very much so. It was nice. When we're shooting the pilot, which was amazing, by the way, you know, just the enormity of it, you know, walking onto the set for the first time and it's just this vast, you know, gigantic set. And you're like, wow, this is special and it's not going anywhere soon. Right. You know, this is very cool. And we're shooting the pilot and it was going very well. And actually, at the table read, I'll tell you a funny story. I think some of the fans have heard this before, but when we're doing the table read up in the offices at Bridge Studios, everyone was there. All the executives from MGM and, you know, Sci-Fi and all the cast was there. The only person that wasn't there was David Hewlett because he wasn't cast yet. He was the last person to be cast. And I was sitting beside Rainbow and Joe and Rachel on my other side. And we started, and Beckett has the first lines of the pilot. And Robert Patrick was there, and I was, this is very exciting, you know, trying just to keep it down a bit, right? And so I'm talking how I regularly speak without an accent. And then when Martin says, okay, Paul, we're going to get started. So I started talking with an accent. And I was like, I'm not getting, I can't remember the first line, but it's something, you know, I'm not getting on that bloody thing. And I could just feel everybody looking at me, you know? And Joe came over and he goes, is he Scottish? Like that. And I said, that's right, mate, I'm Scottish. And I kept on reading, right? And so it's a very fun thing to do. And then that happening after the pilot, we were reading the pilot, then Martin Wood came up to me and he said, Paul, can you go up into the writer's room to meet Damien Kindler? He's ready. There's a very big Beckett episode in episode 7. And we're shooting the pilot. I'm like, episode 7. Wow, it's great. And it's like, because it was just a reoccurring character at the time. I didn't know it could have been 2 episodes. We don't know. And as you know how it is as an actor, and you get up there, and then he was talking to me and says, "Thank you for coming up, and we love what you're doing, and if you feel free to add your little things," which I did often, and they were really great with me because having both Scottish parents and living there for a number of years, and every relative I have is Scottish, you get their Scotticism, so to speak, and I add a lot of those to them, and they were very open with that and welcomed it for the most part. Obviously keeping the integrity of the script that especially Brad and Robert were writing. It was a great way for me to make the character more identifiable as Scottish.
Yeah. Did you guys gel right away as a cast, because you're kind of chucked together, and chemistry is such a difficult thing to kind of describe, but you guys had great chemistry, particularly you and David.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we really did. We got along really, really well right off the top, and I think a lot of it has to do with the SG1 cast. I mean, we're really fortunate to have them on the set. They were shooting at the same time. They had 2 more seasons, at least, I think, or 3, while we were shooting. And, like Michael and Amanda is amazing, and Judge and everybody, all the main cast were fantastic to us. And they really took us under their wing. Richard Dean Anderson was in the pilot with us, and he was really great and really ingratiated us and made us feel at home. And then the cast, we got along really, really well, and with David, sometimes, as you know, when you're acting, you just gel with certain people on a chemistry level when you're acting, the rhythms and stuff, whatever worked. And for whatever reason, we really, really clicked like that, especially on camera. It was really great. It was really fun to play off each other, and it was a lot of fun. It was I always kind of equated to playing cops and robbers in space. It was fun.
Yeah. And actually, I was thinking, like, you guys have a great sort of odd couple type relationship.
Yeah.
But you guys should totally do on stage one day together. Would be brilliant.
Cool, actually, yeah. Exactly.
Because his character is very arrogant and quite bolshy, and your character is very much the kind of moral compass of the show. And you had actually, in the past, you've described Beckett as the kind of cowardly lion. Can you?
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, I just feel like, like I said before, I feel like he's a character that wore his heart on his sleeve a lot, and like he didn't want to go through, in Poisoning the Well, for example, and then going through, the gate. It all freaked him out doing that kind of things. He didn't like any of that kind of stuff, and that's where the cowardly lion comes. But I think at the end of the day, he's a very courageous character too, and when push comes to shove, he'll step up, to the plate. And that, I think that was a great aspect for the character. And a lot of that has to do with the fantastic writing. When you get an opportunity to play both comedy and drama in the same series, that's a real blessing, and I think David a lot of us had a lot of that. It was really fun to be able to do that. And certainly for me, as an actor, you get to work your comedy chops a lot, and then you get to work the dramatic chops. And David always jokes that I was the worst doctor in the galaxy, in the universe, because many a patient died in my arms, and Beckett never really got a girl, he never did, his wee baby turtles, mind you.
But there's still hope. You never know.
Yeah.
Speaking of Poisoning the Well, you really did get to flex your kind of dramatic muscles, and you were nominated for a Leo for Best.
Right. Yeah.
And we got to see a different side of the character. Now, you've mentioned several times in the past that it's one of your favorite episodes. Tell us why.
It is. That's the episode actually that Damien Kindler wrote, and he wanted to talk to me about it because it was a very heavy Beckett episode. And then when you get something like that as a reoccurring character, this is sort of like, okay, here's your chance. You know what I mean? To step up to the plate. And when I read it, I was like, it's fantastic, just because it's kind of ironic because it dealt with this Hoffman virus, actually, which is what we're going through right now. It's a wonderful episode, and that was sort of a plague-like thing that was happening. And Alison Hossack, who played Perna in it, was a wonderful actress. She's in Toronto now. It was just a pleasure to work with her, and getting the chance to show all aspects of the character. I think comedically, like going through the gate, and there's that hilarious scene where we're going through the gate and it's a big walk and talk, and we're talking about, I'm like, this is crazy. And then they're talking about Stargate and stuff like that. And then absolutely having the episodes where he has to deal with the moral dilemmas, that I think, many doctors have to deal with, right now. And just having a girl who you think you're falling in love with basically die in your arms. Yeah. And so for me as an actor, this was it was a meaty piece within the Stargate universe for me to work on. And I just really wanted to knock it out of the park. And I felt really good about it. And then, I ended up being in 17 of the 20 episodes. And then halfway through the season, they told me they'd be making me a regular. So it worked out. It worked out great. So
yeah, you were the
character.
breakout star of the first season for sure.
Well, I don't know about that, but it was nice to be part of. That's for sure.
You and David worked successfully off Stargate as well, because of course he directed you in A Dog's Breakfast with his sister as well.
Yes.
What was that experience like? What is David like as a director?
Oh, he's fantastic. I mean, he wrote, directed, produced along with his wife Jane, and yeah, it was fun. And he put on many different hats. It was a really fun experience, actually. It was, as you know, because you've been in Vancouver, it was torrential downpour toward around Christmas time, and it was just absolutely pouring every single day. That I think it was a 17 or 18 day shoot.
Yeah.
And I got to play multiple different characters. David all said, you want to play a woman, but he made me dress as a woman. And he asked me to shave my legs. He'll say I shaved them myself, but I don't really have hairy legs, but I shaved them anyway. and I played a woman and I played a sci-fi character. This guy here, right here, which was so fun to play. Yeah. With Rachel and Michael Lennick, John's brother in it, who's a fine young actor and a great kid. And then, I get to play Ryan, who's engaged to Kate Hewlett, and she's a wonderful actress and just a super cool person, and David did a great job. I mean, it's a very difficult thing to do to, first of all, get anything made, produce it, direct it, write it, and then act in it. And he's in every single scene of the movie. So it's a tricky thing. He did great. I mean, one of my favorite memories or odd memories from that show is that there's a scene where David's in the bathtub and Detective Morse, who I made Scottish kind of homage to Beckett, and I thought that was a fun thing to do. He jumps out of the window and he falls on the window and he's on the ground, and all of a sudden Detective Morse is standing right above him in her trench coat and everything. And it was pouring rain, so I had to hold an umbrella over David while he's lying there completely naked on the ground. I'm in high heels. There's soap suds on his bum. And there's a lady with more soap suds because the rain was taking them away, throwing them on his butt, to make sure we didn't see anything. Thank goodness. And so I remember holding the umbrella over him, and they said, "Oh my God, the battery's dead on the camera." I'm like, and the lady with soap suds, I have to get more suds. So I'm standing over David with an umbrella over, looking down at him, and I look at him, and he's like looking at the mud, and I said, "David, this better be funny." He's like, "I know, right?" And then my heels just sank into the mud. I just sank there and looked down.
You're like, what a way to make a living.
Yeah. I'm dressed as a woman looking at you naked. Thanks.
Exactly. And speaking of womanly things and kissing and all sorts of things, the episode Duet, we got to see you locking lips. What do you remember from that episode? Because it is.
I can't hear you. I missed that. I'm kidding.
Does this ring any bells?
No, yeah, it does. It triggers a lot of things. What I remember from that is what's the word? Halitosis. David was so funny because everybody knew that the kiss was going to happen, and in the morning, walking around, all the crew guys were like, when I walked in, I had my robe on, and they're like, "Well, I smell some romance in there." I'm like, "Shut up." And then we did the rehearsal. And David just grabbed me in the rehearsal. And by the way, he kisses me. I don't kiss him. Rewatch the episode, folks. He grabs me and plants me. So in the rehearsal, which you normally don't do full speed, David just grabs me and plants me in the mouth. I'm like, ah! And he's like, "Sorry, I just need to get that over with." I'm like, oh my God. And so everyone's dying. Joe and Jay, everyone's making fun of us completely, right? And I don't blame them. But yeah, it was a very funny episode. It was a lot of fun, and I've been teased incessantly about it, and I'm sure he has too. But yeah, it's one of those ones. I think it was one of the first kisses, man-on-man kiss in sci-fi. Yeah,
it was a great episode. I mean, absolutely great, and certainly one that's going to go down in history. Yeah. Now, when was the first moment that you realized, like, how huge the whole sci-fi or Stargate, how huge Stargate was, and when you were first recognized off the show?
I remember going to a convention in Germany, and one of my first conventions, and I was with Don Davis, I believe, and Ronnie Cox and Terrell Rothery and Doug Arthurs. And I remember I was super nervous going on stage. It was really packed. And for some reason they were smoking in there. It was years ago, right? And they're smoking in the convention. And I remember rolling into, and I was talking to Cheryl, and she's amazing. She's so great on stage and everything. And I was she goes, it's fine. You're going to be fine. Just get up there. Just take it easy. You're funny. Just go walk up there. And Stargate Atlantis hadn't aired yet. And I'm like, why am I even here? And then Cheryl's talking to me. All of a sudden, they announce her name, and she just turns into the Energizer Bunny, and she hops on stage, and she's like, woo! The fans are going crazy for her. And then they announce me, and it's like...
I'm sure that's not true.
It was. And I was like, oh, my God, I'm dying right now. I'm dying. I don't know what to say. And this reporter asked me, he says, Paul, your character on the Stargate Atlantis, he's a very humorous character. I had a chance to see an episode. You in person, are you humorous? And I said, well, I'd like to think I'm pretty funny. And he looked at me, he's like, yes. I was like, oh, my God.
Yeah, I'm German, so we are laughing.
We went to Scotland right after that, and we're in Glasgow. And here's the thing that always happens, because people, they think I'm Scottish, So when I meet them, they're like, "Where's your accent?" I said, "It's right, bloody hear me." And so when I went to Scotland, and we're walking around. We're in Glasgow, and there's a convention was at the train station. It was a lot of fun. And the promoter, Brian Cooney, he said, okay, we're going to put you on last because people are waiting for you. And then by then, the first episode had aired, right? So the fans are going nuts, and they're in their kilts, and they're having some pints, as the Scots do. And so during the day, I was like, what am I going to do about this? So I went out and I bought a Scotland scarf.
Yeah.
Put it under my armpit. I had a blazer on, and I came out onto stage after, and they're like, we'd like to introduce Paul McGillion, Dr. Kevin, woo, hey. I started talking. I was like, I'm so happy to be here. I was born just down the street in Paisley, and I can feel the quiet, right? And they're like, and got it, right, mate, where's your bloody accent? And I pulled out the Scotland scarf, and I put my hands up there. I'm like, right, bloody hear me, end of story. And they went crazy, right? And so that was kind of fun. Right. So, sort of around that time, I'd start to get recognized here and there for the show. But yeah. I find it's interesting with sci-fi in general. Either people don't know you at all, or they know exactly who you are, right? Yeah. And then with Stargate fans, as you know, there's such a loyal fan base, which I've come to learn and love. When they see you, they know everything about your character. It's amazing, and you never know who a Stargate. You never know where you find Stargate fans. Yeah. I remember I was in Los Angeles for a period of time, and it was a good friend of mine. There was this kind of funky restaurant that was opening up across the street, and we're having a drink. It was like Friday night. This was a new hot spot, right up in Melrose. And she goes, oh, I'd love to get in there. I go, look at the lineup. And she's like, well, we can't get in. I said, sure we can, So I go over, and I said, let me I'll go right to the front of the line. I'm always kind of like, sort of like, I don't really care about lineup. I'll just walk up and talk to the guy. There's a big, huge, muscular guy with a headset on, a clipboard, and oftentimes I would go in line and I would speak with a Scottish accent. Hello, mate. Great to see you. And guys, I go, can we get a table for two? And he's like, yeah. And he looks at me. He's like, Dr. Beckett? I go, in the flesh. And he goes, oh my God. He turned into a little boy, right? He's a huge fan. It's great. He goes, hold on a second. We got two VIPs coming through. And all the rest of the people in the line were like, and my friends looking at me like, what? I'm like, let's go.
It's so true. You never know.
You never know.
I've had some crazy stories, but years ago when I still had my South African passport, I had to do a job in Tel Aviv for 3 days, but my husband and I were on holiday in Thailand. So I had to fly from Phuket to Bangkok, Bangkok to Israel, and back for 3 days. So, of course, I had no luggage. And when I left Bangkok, they took one look at me and they were like, hooker, drug, whatever. Yeah. They put me through the ringer. And, LL is so really, really strict anyway. And the guy was like, I don't understand what you're going to do there. And he was like this scary, like almost Russian guy. He was like, what? Why are you going for 3 days? I don't, like, where's your luggage? Yeah. 3 days. Nothing I said would work. And finally he's like, says you are actress. What do you act? Stage? Screen? I said, well, yes, both. And tell me what you do. I was like, well, I've been in this and that. And I was like, and Stargate? And he was like, Stargate? I love Stargate. What you play in Stargate? I was like, oh, I played, loosening my hair. I was I played an Egyptian goddess called Hathor. He's like, oh my God, I know who you are. Yes, no problem. Come through.
It's amazing. I know.
Absolutely crazy.
It's
Anyway,
amazing.
let's move on. So at the height of the show's success, the writers decide to kill your character off. Smart
Right.
move. How did you feel when you found out? You must have been a bit like, ugh.
Well, yeah, it was a surprise to me, and I think it was a surprise to everybody. You know, at the time,
Okay.
you feel like you're doing you're doing a great job and stuff, but you know, as you know, I think it was the third season, and you know, I never expected to be in the show that long anyway. You know, so having done, you know, I don't know, maybe 50 episodes by then, they, you know, Brad and Robert and John Smith and those guys called me up to the office and said, listen, we're going to cause a little bump in the road here. We're going to do something big, and we're going to kill off a main character, and we want to get a reaction, and it's going to be you. And I was like, what? Oh, okay. And I said, okay. And they, you know, they said the reasons why, and you kind of, you know, obviously you're kind of disappointed. At the same time, you're grateful for what you received, and I was. And they said, you know, the thing is, there's a couple more episodes to film. If you like to film them, you know, it'd be great. I'm like, of course, I'm going to fulfill my obligation and do the. So I just felt like, you know, I read the script that Martin Guerra wrote, and we were very good friends. And you know, tough for him to write that as well. I'm sure, you know, looking back, it must have been a tricky thing for him to do that. But you know, I always thought, okay, I thought to myself, you know what? I don't think the fans are going to be very happy about this. You know, like killing Beckett's like killing a puppy. You know, so I just made sure that I went and did the best I could with the episode called Sunday, and I thought it was a really tasteful, wonderful episode that they did. And then when that came out, as you know, there was quite a bit of an uprising, and lo and behold, it's by and the return of Dr. Beckett. Thank you very much.
Well, let's talk about that for a minute, because Joe Malozzi he said he was like completely. I think they were blindsided at just how devoted people were to Carson Beckett, and hundreds of people started a Save Carson Beckett campaign. They would save lots of turtles. What have you done with all the turtles? Where are they now?
No, there was a lot of turtles. My wife was like, "What's with all the turtles?" I'm like, "I don't know," but I you know, I have turtle everything. You know, turtle shirts, turtle stuffies, turtle cozies for my teapot. All kinds of turtles. I got a lot of the stuffies and things I got we'd give to Children's Hospital. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of fans would appreciate that. But I had so many different turtles, lots of turtle chocolates, which I love. And then I slowly told them, maybe not turtles, maybe scotch. And so that's that's being good. But yeah, Joe Malozzi's great, and Paul Money, all those guys were fantastic to me. And then when they let me know that I was coming back, and then I was down in Los Angeles at the time. Because the show was essentially done for me. And my brother called me and said, "You're on the news. There's a huge rally going on at Bridge Studios. There was a busload of people came off in the pouring rain, and a bunch of girls had flashed the studios with their underwear, with Save Carson Beckett on their underwear, and a pipe band there, a rally, and it was on the national news, and it was crazy. I had no idea." And he called me. I'm like, "That is amazing." It was so much fun, you know, so fun. And David, I think, came out, and Joe, and I think some of the producers came out. Martin, I think, did as well. And I think Rachel went out and talked to the fans. It's very flattering, of course. You'd never think for the life of you that, you know, a character you played on a TV series would have that sort of response and resonate with people like that. So it's very flattering, and, you know, it warmed my heart. You know, it was just, it made me feel good about things. And then, of course, when they called me to come back, that was a really big surprise too, but it was so nice to have the opportunity to come back and reinvent the character, so to speak.
Yeah, exactly. And it's sci-fi, right? So anything can happen.
That's right.
Before we move on, I want to double check that your computer is plugged in, because all we need is that we lose you at a crucial moment. Let's make sure, because this.
No, I've got a lot of juice.
Cool. I'd love to chat about Sanctuary next, mostly because it sort of reunited you with some Stargate alumni, notably Martin Wood and Amanda Tapping.
Yeah.
Did it feel like a homecoming of sorts?
Yeah, it was really fun to go on that show. It was a very different type of show. Initially, it was a ton of green screen, which is very different, you know, and unique. And they were trying something that was never done with that much green screen and the way they filmed it. And it was very challenging, and I think they did an amazing job with it. Amanda was great, and it was really fun to come onto that show. and play a complete dichotomy of what I played on Stargate. I mean, Wexford is just sort of an evil villain, all about himself. And so to come from Stargate playing Beckett to play Wexford, for an actor, as you know, is so much fun to be able to play this character and take over the Sanctuary. I think in season 2 with Amanda, toe to toe with Amanda, acting wise, is always a ton of fun. And Martin, he's just such a fine director. He's so fast and he just knows what he wants. So it was a pleasure to work with those guys, and and Ryan and the rest of the cast. Robin, they were great. It was fun. And Christopher Heyerdahl. I had a bit of prosthetics there, as you know. I had the prosthetic eye and gills and stuff. But Chris was in a complete Bigfoot thing, and he's like a Zen master sitting there, and then in the makeup trailer like 2:00 in the morning, just like he just zones right out. So it was cool to be part of that. It was a very interesting, cool character, and it was a cool character to play.
I was just going to say, you're such a lovely guy in real life. So, what do you draw on when you're playing such a kind of nasty? Because he was like the archetypal villain.
I always say to my brother, God bless my brother Terrence, who's passed away now, but I said, I'm basically playing you. That's what I said to him. He just said, shut up. And but I don't know. I think those things. I think I just kind of. Once you get the stuff on, you're playing. You kind of look like a lizard, and I just think they're kind of like creepy anyway to begin with, and just get into that kind of. I kind of made them sort of anal, kind of anally, kind of like power hungry, and just kind of create your own character, your mind. For me, anyway, that's how you kind of do it, and just and just take different experiences and different rhythms, and the writing obviously was really good for him, and a really cool character to play, So I really enjoyed it.
You've had your fair share of doctors, I must say. And of course, 2 other notable turns as doctors were in 24, which I must tell you is very funny. My husband is rewatching the entire series.
Oh, is he?
And about 2 days ago, having spent the whole day with you online and, researching you and looking at your work, I walked out of the room and came back in, and there you were. And I was like, leave me alone, man. No,
getting killed.
And then also, of course, in V, and I just wondered a couple of things. Firstly, how medical jargon is always a little tricky to just have it trot off the tongue. How do you approach those big mealy mouth kind of scenes?
Well, you have to do your homework. I always laugh because we would Jason Momoa. I love him, and he would come. We usually get the scripts on a Thursday or a Friday or something for the next episode, and everyone's very excited to see it because you want to know where we're going, what kind of thing we're going to go through, and what kind of galaxy we're going to be in, or what planet we go to, or whatever. And I'd be reading a script. He goes, "Let me see that," and he'd grab it and he's like, "Yeah, okay, all right, going for beers." And then David or myself would get it, and I'd be like looking at it. I'm like, "Oh God, page alien medical jargon, Scottish accent. Here we go." And but Jason would just he'd look at his and he'd be like, yeah, got it. And then but he'd have sword fights. He'd have to kill people. That was his job. He'd just crush people and do it very well, obviously. And then, David and I would talk a lot, and blah, blah, blah. And then, we'd have to do it well and make it look like it was easy. And you do these gigantic monologues, and, and Joe and Jason would be kind of laughing off camera, and you're just trying to focus. There's you're injecting someone at the same time and doing some medical procedure while you're talking, and then they'd be like, "Okay, we got it, moving on." You'd be like, "Oh God, thank God," And then they're no one's like, "Hey, great job." They just moving on. All right, let's go. It's just they hired you to do that, so you got to do it. Yeah. And so you just have to do your homework. I would just go over it. And I always say, people say, "How do you memorize that?" I said, "Well, good writing is really easy to memorize." And thankfully, in Stargate, we had really good writing. It has a linear flow to it, and it makes it. When you have problems memorizing as actors, I'd say 9 times out of 10 it's because it's not written well. And then, in that case, you got to kind of, tweak it a little bit and try to make it your own, I guess, the best you can, unless they're married to the dialogue. But so it was good.
I think also there's something about when you're doing a show, it's like when you're on a stage show and you do that thing night after night, your body gets stage fit or show fit.
The muscle,
when you're in a long running show, you get better at memorizing, you get better at doing it. Staying with sci-fi for the moment, I wanted to chat just very briefly about the Star Trek reboot, which was directed by J.J. Abrams.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I know that you'd gone in for the role of Scotty, and
Mhm.
I don't think, I mean, I love Simon Pegg. I think he's a fantastic actor, so no disrespect to him, but I think I speak on behalf of many, many, many fans. I feel like you were robbed, completely robbed. They took your freedom.
Well, that was a fun experience. When I read for it initially, it was great sides, and I put it on tape, and then I was down, and then I went down to Los Angeles, and then they called me in to the offices at Paramount to talk to me, and said, and I was like, oh, this is great. My manager told me it's amazing. So I went to see casting there, and they were talking to me about it, and they said, listen, we love your tape, everything, and you have. I think a lot of people. What had happened was Chris Doohan, who I met just a couple years ago now. His family publicly endorsed me to play Scotty, and I had never met them. So that went crazy when he said, "This is the guy that should play my dad's, character." And I was like, "Oh my god, I didn't, that's really flattering, obviously." And we do kind of bear resemblance too,
Yeah.
And so then I went, and then that kind of went crazy. And I think a lot of Stargate fans kind of started inundating them with, emails or however letters or stuff. So when I went to speak to casting there, they said, "Listen, loved it, great. Would you be interested in doing anything else on the show if it happens?" I'm like, well, yeah, of course. I mean, it's Stargate. I mean, Star Trek, of course I would. And so it didn't happen anyway. Simon Pegg got the part, and I was kind of disappointed, but at the same time, he's a fantastic actor. And, what are you going to do? That's how it goes, right? And I remember driving back up to Vancouver to do a play, and I was in Oregon, and I got a call from my manager saying, J.J. Abrams' office called, and they want to offer you something in the Star Trek movie. I'm like, what? Okay, well, what is it? And they said, well, they can't tell you what it is until you say yes. I'm like, yes. So I ended up doing, of course I'm going to say yes. And so I ended up doing a little cameo in the film, and it was really great to be part of it. J.J. Abrams was just a gem. When I came onto the set, actually, his first AD, his name was Tommy, I believe, and he's Scottish. And he says, "Oh, you Paul, for God's sakes, I know all about you. Come and meet JJ." So I met JJ in this massive blimp hangar in California, the biggest place I've ever seen. They had all these spaceships everywhere. And JJ comes over and goes, "Paul, thank you so much for doing this. I'm sorry, I had Simon cast a long time ago. We had a history." I'm like, "Of course. I mean, all the Mission Apollo." I'm like, "Got it. Yeah. It was so great to have you." So thanks for having me. He goes, "Come and check out the spaceship with me." I'm like, I go, "Is this actually happening?" I'm walking around with JJ, and we're looking at this spaceship, and I have a sandwich. And he was such a lovely, lovely guy. Just a sweet, sweet guy. So to be part of that that franchise, which was kind of cool because, again, I think a lot of people went from Star Trek to Stargate, but not a lot of Stargate people have went on to Star Trek. And that was kind of a cool thing for me to be able to do that and be part of that franchise was a ton of fun. It's just cool to be part of that film. It was a really good experience.
It's such a big film,
oh my God, huge.
You're a part of that, as you said, stepping into that beloved franchise. It's great.
Yeah.
I mean, when the call comes from J.J. Abrams, you just go, "Yeah, I'll play a."
Yeah. And he was the executive producer on Fringe, and and I had an opportunity to work on that show, and then another show he did as well. So he's been very good to me, and he's honestly, there's sometimes you think, you wonder why people are successful, and the thing about JJ is he's a lovely, lovely guy, and he's great at what he does, and he's super smart, and he's just got it, and it's just great to see people like that, killing it like he is. So
yeah. Changing tack now a little bit, I wanted to chat a bit about A Fine Young Man, which won you a Leo Award for Best Male Performance. It's set during the Cold War, and you play an FBI agent. Is that correct?
Yeah, sort of kind of a government agent. Yeah, it's a very interesting short film. It won the Australia International Film. It played at Toronto. It played TIFF as well. Kevin Funk, who's a good friend of mine, he wrote and directed the film. It's a really quirky short film. I really love doing it. And it just brings up, he's just a young filmmaker, and I've had the opportunity to work on several different films with him now. I think 3 films now with him. And it's just really dark, funny, but really thought-provoking as well. And it was really cool to be able to work on a short film with him. And then he did another film called Hello Destroyer, which did very well at the Toronto Film Festival a couple of years back, about a very, very dark film about institutionalized violence in sports. And it kind of travels into young men, how they are sort of forced into a certain nature, and and basically about this young hockey player who accidentally injures another player on the team, a star player on the team, and how he's sort of systematically ostracized from his billets, the team, his family, and it happens, it's a very eye-opening, aware film. It's very, very dark. It's hard to watch at times, but Jared Abrahamson plays my son in it. He does a phenomenal performance. He won, TIFF Rising Star for it, and he's gone on to do tons of great things. And I just love working with filmmakers like that, Kevin. I'm actually going to see him soon. He's coming to Vancouver for a little visit, so hopefully he does something again soon. It'd be great to work with him again.
Yeah, and it's very rewarding when something like that actually gets the kind of attention and the accolades that I think it deserves.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How do you feel about kind of award shows? Do you like the notion of being rewarded and getting? I mean, they're nice when you win.
Sure, it's flattering to be nominated, for things like that. But I always say, acting's not a competition. It's an essence. You know what I mean? And certain things, certain people, like, you're not everybody's flavor. For example, I'm sure I'm not every casting director's flavor.
That is so true.
Yeah, and so that's okay. And you're not gonna please everybody all the time. And it's more of I love the idea of going to those things because you get to dress up and you get to see everybody in your community when you're not actually at an audition or on set, and you're socializing, and it's a fun night out. It's where we celebrate the industry, and that's the thing I like about it. And honestly, obviously it's nice to win some of those things, but at the same time, it's nice to just go and hang out with your friends and just kind of go and bring my wife and we get to dress up and stuff. That's what I like about it.
And Elena, beautiful Elena Huffman, posted something really funny today on Instagram, which was all about we've been so conditioned into this kind of mindset of competition and there's not enough space for everyone. And if we actually change the way we think about that and go, hang on a minute, there is enough for all of us. We won't all get the same things.
No.
There's no one else like you. There's no one else like me.
No.
And therefore, that just kind of creates, and it's so beautifully put, I'm butchering it, but it just kind of made me go, yeah, that's so true. We need to, especially now after this virus.
Yeah. I mean, all you can do, Suanne, all you can do, as you know, is you can just do your best. You give them a little piece of yourself where you walk in there and you hold your head up high and walk away. They often say actors give their best auditions in the rearview mirror on the way home, And so I think, for me, it's just I give a little piece of Paul, walk away. If you like me, great. If they don't, I'm happy for the other person. I really am. Good for them. It's got nothing to do with me. My eyes are blue. That guy's eyes are brown, and the kid in the show that they've already cast has, or whatever, or he happened to have a better audition. He's more suited to the part. It's fine. It all goes around and comes around. And I think the trick, and I often tell young actors, you can't take it personally, and it's very difficult in this business not to do that. But if you want to succeed, you just got to keep even. When things are going really well, stay like that. When things aren't going so well, stay like that. Just stay even and just stay even. I think it's the best.
Yeah, beautifully put. And you're so right. You've got to take the good with the bad. And it's not always easy, but
no, it's hard.
Now, Hallmark Channel, over the years, you've done quite a lot of work for Hallmark.
Right,
and Dan Payne was on the show. He also has done lots of Hallmark stuff.
Handsome.
Very handsome. As are you. My question to him, and I want to ask
you, but that's okay.
Sorry, say that again?
About a foot shorter, but that's okay.
That's right. We can't tell.
Yeah, good. I'm sitting down. That's good.
So I wanted to know what you think, or why you think the formula that they've kind of come up with is so incredibly successful globally, because they really are such a successful company.
Sure. For me, in a different way, it sort of it mirrors sci-fi in a certain way, because sci-fi is escapism, and I think the Hallmark brand is escapism as well. It's a world where people can put on Hallmark movies. They make you feel good. You know there's going to be a good ending. It's going to work out. There's some lovely characters in it. It's a sweet movie, and I think it deflects from everything that's going on in the world. And I think people need that right now too. And and a lot of times they're fun. There's fun banter. There's great characters. I really enjoy working. I work in a Hallmark series called Picture Perfect Mysteries right now.
Yeah.
We're supposed to film the fourth movie soon, but I think that's going to be pushed. But we have a blast doing them. Hallmark's been so good to so many actors in Vancouver and all around. But up here, we have a lot of Hallmark productions, and they're always fun to work on, and people love them. When I'm in the United States, I'll get recognized more for Hallmark than I will for Stargate.
How interesting.
Quite often, people, especially around Christmas, I have about 3 or 4 Christmas movies that kind of recycle quite a bit, and I often get phone calls from my buddies back home teasing me about them. But you know what? At the end of the day, people always love watching them. They have them on while they're making their Christmas dinner. They have them on with the families. They just have them on a loop, and people love them. And they've got a great. I think it's a really smart formula, and I think why not? Why not have something that people feel good when they watch?
Absolutely. And now more than ever, my God, do we need it? I mean, there's a wonderful thing to have. And also the family values. You can watch it together as a family. There's not a hell of a lot on TV that we can all watch together.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. And with Stargate too, that's another thing. I've been to conventions all over the world, and I remember going to conventions in London right when the show was very early days. And I went maybe 2 years ago, and I see the same family. Now the kids are taller than me, and they're like 20, and they're little kids. But they're grown up watching the show together.
With their own children.
And it's funny because my I have an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. They haven't started watching it, but my son said, I really want to start watching Stargate, and I think he's ready to watch it now because there were some scary characters in it, And I saw Robert Cooper actually at an award show, and we're talking. He said, have the kids seen it yet? And he's like, no. But he goes, how old are they? He goes, yeah, they're getting close. And I talked to his daughter, and she said, yeah, now's a good time. And my son loves watching action. He loves the Marvel movies. So I think if you can watch those, you can watch Stargate. So we're going to start watching it soon. And it'll be fun for me to rewatch it. I haven't watched it in ages, so it'll be fun.
Oh, that'll be so interesting. We'll have to have a part 2 after you've done that.
It'll be cool to see what they think,
No, I know I'm jumping around chronologically in your career, but I wanted to chat about 3 more projects. One was the Magic Beyond Words, the J.K. Rowling story, Witchslayer Gretel, and of course Once Upon a Time. Well, it's interesting because I think they're all sort of like fantasy, storybook, well-known fairy tale. So we'll start with J.K. Rowling. Are you a Harry Potter fan, firstly?
I am. Yeah, I've watched.
Otherwise, I'm going to end the interview.
We watched. Yeah, we know I am, and we're watching. I started watching that with my son too because he's now again. My daughter's a little bit. I think she's quite ready for it. But we've been watching. We're like on. We watched at least 4 of them now together. I watched them all, and I really love them. And so to rewatch them again with him is great. We get our popcorn and we do a matinee. Often on a rainy day we're here in Vancouver and something we'll watch a couple of those. We'll do little Harry Potter, little Lord of the Rings, and that's the whole day right there. So I love it. It was very cool to be to be part of that scenario. Again,
dad, right?
Pardon me. I played her dad, Pete Rowling, and Janet Kidder played my wife, who's a wonderful actress. And Poppy Montgomery plays J.K. Rowling in it. And the cool thing is, for me is they aged us through it. And we shot over in Victoria, which doubles quite well for the UK. Mm-hmm. And to know the story is what a phenomenal story of her life, it's a true rags to riches story. And I remember at the end of the movie, she's said to be richer than the Queen of England now. And from what she came from and where she is now is amazing,
Yeah.
And it was cool to play a British character, and had the sideburns going and stuff like that. It was just cool to go into that period. I'm not sure if I don't think it was done under her sort of supervision, so to speak. I think they just did it, but the movie did very well. It won a Canadian Screen Award, I believe.
Fantastic. And did he support her career or not? The dad, yeah.
You don't really kind of find that out so much. He's kind of like he's sort of a tertiary character. The mother is much more supportive than the dad was,
right?
In real life, from what I understand, But it was more about her growing up and telling her to go to school and writing, and he wasn't so much. He was more just about get a job sort of thing. And then the mother was much more supportive,
And then Witchslayer Gretel, in which you played Hansel, you're laughing. So,
well,
what are your memories of that film?
My memories of that are being in Ontario, and outside of Hamilton, Ontario, when it was about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. and leather. I'm wearing leather chaps and stuff, and running around with Shannon Doherty playing Gretel. And Mario Azzopardi, who directed a bunch of Stargates, who I love, he was directing it, and it was just crazy. It was just a crazy experience. You know, it was funny. Actually, my kids watched that about a month ago, and they loved it. They're just like, so, and they haven't watched A Dog's Breakfast yet, which I'm going to get to.
They're gonna love that.
Yeah, it's funny. But yeah, which other? I mean, it's cool. You play Hansel and Gretel. I mean, you have to play Hansel and Shannon Doherty's Gretel, and she was awesome to work with. She was a sweetheart. We had a lot of fun. Yeah, and Amelia Ullerup was in that as well. Who's done was in Gray, and she's a sweetheart too. So it was fun.
Cool, and you're playing like the Hansel, man. I mean, that's
yeah. He's kind of the bow and arrow shooting Hansel. And I remember, I mean, there's a scene where I'm slaying this sort of ogre of some sort, and I remember Mario's directing me, and he's like, "Okay, you're fighting the thing, and it's an imaginary creature, right? And there's a guy with a little stick with this ogre on it, and he's going like this." And I said to Mario, "How big is it?" He goes, "It's huge. It's enormous." He's Maltese, right? It's a gigantic thing. Okay, Chief, it's huge. Just go fight the dragon. I'm like slaying this thing. I'm jumping up, I'm rolling on the ground. He goes, "Fight it harder, harder, harder." And he's like going, I'm pouring sweat, right? And I'm like, I'm just pouring sweat. I'm like, yeah, I'm dying, right? And then he's like, "Okay, cut." And some guy goes over and talks to Mario. He goes, "Okay, Chief, the creature is not quite that big. It's smaller. Okay, let's do it again." So I'm doing the same thing here again, but with a small version, right? I'm like, oh my God. And then they have a stunt double for me. He's on this bucking machine that they had. And he doesn't, most stunt doubles kind of resemble you a little bit. Didn't really look like me. And so you can obviously see where he's on top of the thing if you watch the movie. And you can see when it's not me and it's not him. And it was just, it's funny. I mean, hey, listen.
We've all done those. And, you got to do them. It's like you got to take the good with the bad.
Listen, I had a good time doing it. It was fun to do. I played Gretel.
And then you got to play Knave of Hearts, and which is like the best role ever. I mean, what a fun thing to have been a part of as well.
Which one?
Once Upon a Time. I was just saying.
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. Yeah, I got to work with Barbara Hershey. One of the most flamboyant costumes I've ever had to wear is the Knave of Hearts. That was cool to be part of that show, and that did very well. One of the strange things about shooting that show, it was the set that we shot, that we very first shot on with all the mushrooms and everything going through, was the gate set for Stargate SG-1.
No.
Yes. So when I walked in there, I was like, oh, this is so weird. It was gone. The gate was gone and everything. And I really felt sad. I was like, this is crazy. Yeah. And then I walked over to this Atlantis set, gone. And it was like, wow, this is amazing. Yeah. What did you do, because I think, Stargate had such a legacy at Bridge Studios, and it was really crazy to see it all gone. But, they made an equally impressive set, but just completely different. But it was lovely to work with on that show, and Barbara Hershey was just a pleasure to work with. So it was cool.
Oh, yeah, goddess.
Knave of Hearts. Cool.
Yeah. What are the kind of key things that you look for when you're deciding what to pursue next? Or is it more just a thing of like, that's the audition I'm going, and I'm, whatever comes my way?
Obviously, you read them all and you hope for something that challenges you, to a certain degree. And then obviously when you get something you can see you really bite your teeth into, you take it. Sometimes you want to just be busy because, you have a family and you want to keep working, and it's always good to be working. I think work begets work. And I've been very fortunate in that sense where I've had a pretty busy career, but sometimes you get offers for things which are really nice to get an offer. You feel, which is really sweet to get. And I just finished doing something where I had an offer, which is really nice to do. Good writing is nice. It's always good to get great writing. I recently worked on a show called Firefly Lane, the Netflix series, which is coming out, and it's just really great writing, and a real pleasure to be part of that and get to do something. And I'm excited about that series coming out. So that'll be cool with Katherine Heigl and Sarah Chalk.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you about that. So while we're on it, can you tell us anything about it, or is it all still top secret?
It's all pretty top secret. I can tell you it's basically about it's a coming of age story. But it's based on a book by Kristen Hanna called Firefly Lane, which is a New York Times bestseller. And it's about these two girls. They grow up together. They come from very different worlds. and it's about their life and how they grew up together, and it's a coming of age story about them. It's got amazing soundtracks. There's a phenomenal cast attached to it. Shayla Horsdale plays my wife. I have a great character. I'm Bud Malarkey. I'm Sarah Chalk's dad, but again, I get the age throughout it, and so does Shayla, and Bo Garrett's in it, and this is nothing that's not on IMDb, and Katherine Heigl's a wonderful actress and fun to be around. And Sarah Chalk it's just great too. I've known her for a number of years, so much fun. I think it's going to be really well received, I hope. And Maggie Freeman and Leroy Rose, are the executive producers on it, and they're great. I mean, they've got it's got a huge ensemble cast, so it's really fun to be part. And it goes all over different time periods and stuff, and it's really cool. And so I'm really excited to see it. So it'll be exciting. I think it comes out the end of this year.
Were you filming that during lockdown, or was that before?
We finished that right before lockdown.
Okay. Wow.
So,
but you have been busy during lockdown. you've had work, haven't you?
Well, right after that finished in late January, I did a Picture Perfect Mysteries movie. And then I started doing a Lifetime movie, which while we're shooting stopped during lockdown. And then 2 weeks ago in Vancouver, our numbers have been very low, and thankfully, and we've been fortunate enough to be here. And we have Bonnie Henry, who's the chief medical officer here, and give the green lights to go to phase 3. So we started shooting that movie, a Lifetime movie, directed by Ashley Williams, who's Kimberly Williams' sister. They do tons of Hallmark, and she's a fantastic actress, and she's directing this film. So Diane Neal's in it. It's a Lifetime movie called Practice to Deceive with Tom Pennicott, who's from Battlestar. He's in it as well. Yeah, so it's really it's a Jill Morrison plays my wife in it, and it's kind of a based on a true story. So we just finished shooting that on Friday. So I was able to do that.
Yeah, you've been busy, which is great.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been good. So that was great to be able to get that under the belt, and hopefully the numbers stay down and we can continue having production shooting here if everyone is safe and practices what we're told to do. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, let's hope so, because unfortunately it's rising in other places. So
I know. We just got to be smart about it. So
yeah, absolutely. I am aware that we've kept you slightly longer. Always, there's too much to talk about.
I'm fine.
I wanted to just very quickly talk about two completely opposite projects. One was Heartbeats, where you went to Mumbai to film.
Amazing.
You were flung to the opposite end of the planet in Frontier with Jason Momoa. So what was it like filming in India?
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. That was one of those ones where I was grateful enough to get an offer for it. I had no idea. My parents live in Niagara on the Lake, in Niagara Falls, and I was there with my family, and my son and my daughter was really young at the time, like less than a year. And it was like December 20th. And I was out with a bunch of my wrestling buddies, and I had the one night out back in my hometown. So we were staying at a hotel, and we were going out, and all the guys were just in a hotel. And my agent called and said, listen, I was going to offer for you to do a movie. I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? It's like Christmas, right? It's December 20th. And she said, would you, I go, what is it? And she says, it's a movie. It shoots in India. I'm like, what? It shoots in India? And it's just an offer. I'm like, well, I can't, what am I going to do? And I'm like, I got the little kid. I can't. And when do I have to go there? When is it? And she goes, they want you there by January 2nd. I'm like, what? I go, so I just said no. I said, I can't do it. Her name's Jamie. I said, Jamie, I can't do that. I'm like, I don't know. Then she called back the next day, and obviously we've been out all night with the guys. So the next day she says, they're going to offer your wife a trip as well and pay you more money and blah, blah, blah. You got to read the script. So I read the script, and it's lovely. And it's a lovely story about this family that goes to Mumbai for a wedding. And my daughter's a dancer, but we think she's in medical school, but she's using all of her money to take dance classes. And I'm like, no, you're not doing that. You're coming to Mumbai with us. And she ends up hooking up with the Bollywood wedding entertainer, and they go all these crazy dance offs and stuff like that. And Daphne Zaninga plays my wife in it. She was from Melrose Place, and she was from Spaceballs. She's awesome, and we had such a great time. So I ended up going there, and I was there for almost 3 months in and around Mumbai. Dwayne Adler directed it. He did Step Up and Save the Last Dance franchise, and he is a joy. And Crystal, the young girl that plays the lead, is fantastic. Just so much fun to go there, and the culture, the people were so gracious to us, and it's just one of those things I would have never thought I had a chance to do. And it was, it's sort of like from palaces to poverty. The place is just amazing. It's just such a different world, and I recommend everybody has an opportunity to go there. It was just I'll never forget it, and I was so happy my wife had a chance to go there as well. Have you been there?
No, I haven't. I almost went a couple of years ago in a film, and then the whole thing fell apart. But it's very much on my list.
It's amazing, it's from being in Vancouver, and then 2 days later we went through, Germany, and they took great care of us. And all of a sudden I'm walking around the streets of Mumbai, and there's people walking around with live chickens, and I was like, what? It's a serious culture shock, and but amazing at the same time. Just the kindness of the people. I can't say how grateful I was to have that experience. It was really cool.
And then the antithesis of that, in the freezing cold January, was Frontier.
Right. Yeah.
That must have been brutal, because you shot in Newfoundland, right?
Yeah, Newfoundland. Yeah.
Oh, tell us about that.
Amazing. Again, Jason Momoa's show. So fun to go out there and hang out with him a little bit. We didn't have any scenes together. I played a real evil character, which is so fun to do. In season 3, I had a few episodes in season 3. It was amazing to go. I had the fortunate circumstance of doing my education degree in St. John's, Newfoundland. So I love the people there. They have a real sort of Irish Scottish sensibility. It's a whole different world from the rest of Canada, and amazing restaurants and everything. And the crews are so great. And it's a period, you're, I'm a red coat in it, and then just,
what was your first period piece? Was it your first period? Or on film? I mean,
on film, on film, and it was, on film it was from, I think, on film. I didn't play, but on film, it was amazing, and just the costumes and everything, and just the people. It was just cool to be part of that show. It was a really, really cool part to play, and I went there several times. I came back and forth several times. So, and that's like, Newfoundland is. I could see you faster than I get to Newfoundland.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's only a 3.5-hour flight to Ireland from Newfoundland.
No.
Yes.
Well, next time you're there, honey. Not that I'm in Ireland, but
over the pond, love, and see you.
Yeah. Do come and visit.
A lot of pint in Dublin.
I'd love that. I'll have to get to Dublin, but we can figure that out.
Yeah, exactly.
The next thing I wanted to chat about quickly, just before we're just about to wrap up, but I wanted to briefly touch on Unspeakable, because also it has the Stargate kind of connections there, which starred Michael Shanks, and it was written by and created by Robert Cooper, who was massively involved in the Stargate franchise. Yeah. And this, when I was reading about it, I was like, God, this is a really a kind of dirty secret that Canada had, and it directly affected him, which I didn't realize.
I know. He's really close to his heart, and
so don't know, just to say, the film is about a tainted blood scandal.
Yeah. They call it the Tainted Blood Scandal, yes. And it went on for a number of years, and there was a cover-up where blood was being tainted with HIV, and so it was really kind of buried within politics, happening in bureaucracy, and it comes out through the series, and it's a labor of love, I think, for Robert, and Andy Makita worked on it as well, so I had a chance to work with Andy Makita again on it.
Oh, lovely!
I had a few episodes of that to do. Michael Shanks was fantastic. Sean Doyle, Sean Doyle's on that, who was also on Frontier. I have had great scenes with him in Frontier. He's a fantastic Canadian actor from Newfoundland originally. Just a lovely guy, and Camille Sullivan. I mean, the cast is like crazy for that series. And they did it for not a huge amount of money, and it got a lot of critical acclaim, and it brought a lot of attention to the issue, which is, I think, the biggest part. And it was, again, it's nice to be part of something like that. It's very different, and always nice to see Robert, and it's got some nice accolades, which I'm really happy for him, because I know it was really, really special for him to be able to do that and produce it.
Yeah. Well, looking at your kind of resume, there's such variety there. Everything from comedy to period films to drama to sci-fi, big blockbuster films. I mean, it's really fantastic. You're massively versatile.
Well, talented. Thank you. I've had it's about getting opportunities, I think, which is very nice. Honestly, there's so many great actors out there that sometimes you just don't get the opportunities, and I wish that for all of them.
That's true, but I think you also have to be able to deliver when you get the opportunities, which of course you do in spades and loads.
You're very kind.
And finally, sort of coming a full circle with the Scottish accent, you've had a lovely recurring role on The Flash, playing,
Right.
and I love this character, this kind of sleazy, lounge lizardy kind of
Yes.
antithesis of Carson Beckett.
Yes.
Yeah. And, yeah, so tell us a little bit about that and how that job came your way.
Oh, that's great. I mean, my friend I mentioned before, Tom Cavanaugh, who's one of the leads in The Flash, and he's been doing that for a number of years. And there's been a few different opportunities that we were kind of look at for something kind of fun to do, you know. And when this character came up, Earl Cox, his name is. When it came up, Tom says, "Look at this one because it's really interesting because he's written as a gigantic, heavy, like 300-pound bald guy, lascivious sort of like works at a pawn shop, sort of private detective sort of guy." I'm like, well, you know, maybe I packed in a few pounds, but I'm not. I still have a full head of hair. And he's like, "No, it's not about that. It's a funny character." And I looked at it and read it. He goes, "Can you do something with that?" I'm like, "Yeah, you know." He goes, "You're gonna have to see you read it because you're so different from what it is." And so I was like, you know what? Yeah, I haven't done a Scottish character since Stargate, so I'm gonna make this guy like, "Hello, mate," you know, and kind of like that kind of Scottish.
Yeah.
And then I got a prosthetic belly, and they said, "Would you like to wear that?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And so I have like a 7-month pregnant belly on me. And once you put that on, you get the character. It was a blast to play that character. So much fun. He's such a funny character. And completely opposite of Carson Beckett, which is great, and it's one of those ones where, you know, "Hello, how you doing, mate? Oh, look at you," you know, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where, you know, I'm sure the people in Scotland have an uncle like that, so he's that kind of uncle, you know. "Hello, I look at you, Mr. Hotshot Fancy Pants," you know, so just a kind of a fun character to play, and I love those kind of things. So it was always a blast to go out there and play that character. So it was fun to do, and of course, getting a chance to work on the show with Tom was great. We've been friends for almost 30 years, so
wow,
it's been fun.
Yeah, well, it was an absolute delight and a treat. It was like my little surprise. I always find when I'm doing this show, like there's a job or something that I discover, and I didn't know at first that it was a prosthetic belly, and I was a bit like, oh, like, okay. I mean, that's been my excuse for years.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, Paul, thank you so much for spending such a lot of time with us. We've got quite a lot of questions for you, and I'm sure people in the chat have got tons of questions.
Sure, I'm ready to go. If they want, do I answer them now? What do I do?
Yeah, so I'm going to start with some of the ones that were sent in to me.
Okay.
Bear with me while I just get these up. So the first one is, as a hockey fan, you probably know that the NHL will resume its activities this week with the Stanley Cup playoffs. What is your prediction of the year? And why do you think the Habs will win the cup? Habs, is that right?
That's right. That's I'm a huge Habs fan, so somebody else must be too. Which I've met a few Stargate fans that are, so I got a feeling I might know who this is. Actually, they play tonight against Toronto, first exhibition game. There's 2 games, and then they have the sort of misfortune of playing the Pittsburgh Penguins, Sidney Crosby's team, on Saturday night, starting this series. I don't know if they're going to win the Stanley Cup. That would be a real long shot. That would be a miracle, and I'm one for miracles. You know, I'm also a huge Toronto Raptors fan, so they won the NBA championship last year, which no one predicted. So that's a great thing. Listen, if the Habs win, that'd be fantastic. If they lose, they got a shot at that great draft pick coming out of Quebec. So either way, I think it's a win-win for us.
There you go. And then somebody has asked, this was their question: can you please answer the next 3 questions with your Scottish accent? So
Sure.
The questions are, do you have a favorite episode of Stargate Atlantis?
I do indeed, love. I'm assuming it's a woman. I'm not sure. It could, but me. Poison the Well, very special to Dr. Beckett. Very special because he gets to be funny and he gets to be sensitive. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Not duet.
Where and when did you get your Scottish Saltire tattoo?
I've got the tattoo. Is it on this one? Yes, it is. There it is, right there. Thank you very much. Can you see that? There it is. I got that in Los Angeles. Oh, I got that in Los Angeles, in Silver Lake, probably 6 years ago. Right after Stargate finished, I got it. And I'll tell you something funny about that as well while on it. When Dr. Beckett first came out, he had a Union Jack on his jacket. And I told the producer, I said, no, Dr. Beckett would have a Saltire. So they made a Saltire and put it on the jacket before the episode here. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Becky Morris wants to know funniest scene from Atlantis.
Funniest scene from Atlantis. Shoot, on this. I love the episode where Lucius, when everyone's in different characters, when he has the poison, he affects everybody like that. And there's a scene that they cut out where, unfortunately, they cut out for time, where I'm crying because I want to see Lucius, and Joe Flanagan's shepherd punches me and says, "Buck up, Carson." I'm like, "I'm sorry," but off camera, I'm like, "Would you mind?" And Joe takes a Kleenex and blows my nose for me, and the scene turned out. It was so funny. That's a really funny scene. I gotta say, a lot of funny stuff in Duet. A lot of fun stuff there too. There's so many funny scenes, but that was a really funny scene for me. That was a lot of fun.
And then I got this saying, I'm writing on behalf of my twin sister and myself. We are both from Queensland, Australia, and have met Paul once in big bold letters. It was at a convention last year in 2019 at the Stargate Rising event. My sister and I were the only ones dressed up. It was pretty awkward. We have 2 questions for Paulie.
I remember them too. I know exactly who they are.
So they want to know, I don't know why I've suddenly got like really Australian. I quite like it. It's ending every Australian watching, but anyway. Will there,
by the way, they do that.
Will there be a sequel to Heartbeats? The show ticked all the boxes of what Bollywood should be. We really hope to see Paul in that genre again.
That's very nice.
So they want to know if there'll be a sequel.
To Heartbeats?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure if I would love to do it again, for sure. Daddy don't dance so much, but it's a fun movie to watch. I mean, I'd love to go back there and shoot something like that. And Dwayne Adler is one of my all-time favorite directors. So anything that guy did or does, I would love to jump on it. It's a great guy.
Fantastic.
Hello, Lovelace. You're fantastic. You look great in your costumes, by the way.
Oh, there you go. They would also like to know, what are your fondest moments with fans?
Oh God, there's so many fun moments. They're always so great to us. One of my favorite moments, and I'll tell you guys this, it's a really sweet moment. And I was in Ireland, and we were in. We did a signing in Dublin, and then we took the train to Belfast. And I remember it because it was a day of Georgie Best's funeral. And so the whole train was packed with all these fans of Georgie Best, and they're singing songs and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, no one's going to be at the signing. This is all about, him. And I'd never been to Belfast before, and it was amazing. And there's a big dichotomy between Dublin and Belfast, economically, I think, as well. So when we got to the signing there at a Forbidden Planet store, there's a big lineup around the block. I'm like, oh, geez, this is nice. So I sat down. There's a big lineup, and there's this little boy. And I love kids. And every time I looked at the line, he had a little toque on, And every time I looked up, he was like, look at me. And he just had this smile on his face. And I give him a thumbs up. And he finally got to my table. And he said, "Oh, hello, Dr. Beckett. I'm a huge fan. I just want to tell you, I love Stargate. It's my favorite show in the world." And I said, "Well, thank you. Thank you so much. It's great to see you." And I go, "What can I do? What can I get you?" And he goes, "Oh, nothing, sir. I just wanted to tell you how much of it." I go, "You waited just to tell me that?" And he goes, "Yes, sir. But I also want to see if you like a piece of my birthday cake." I've got I just turned 11. And my mom made me I'm gonna start crying. My mom made me a birthday cake, and I wanted to give that to you because you're my favorite character in the show. I was like, oh. So he gives me a little napkin with a piece of his cake on, and I go, whoa, and he walked away. I go, whoa, hey, come here. What are you doing? And he goes, oh, I go, thank you for that. For your birthday, you can pick any picture you want from Dr. Beckett. And he just almost started crying, and he goes, oh, I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, sir. And my mom's right there, and I look over at his mom, and I could see her, I could tell they just didn't have a lot of money. I said, is it okay if he does that? And she's like, I go, it'd be my pleasure. I'd love to give him that. And she's like, it's okay. And she nodded. And so the look on that kid's face, I'll never forget it. He was like so happy. It's killing me. And so I signed it. So it was sweet.
Oh, that's so lovely.
I know.
I'm going to do.
And they chucked the cake because they tried to poison me. So it was really sweet, honestly. It was just one of those moments I'll never forget. So that was they touch you in so many different ways. And I've had so many different great experiences with the fans. They're so kind. And I never knew about that before I started doing the show. So when you go to these things at first, you don't realize the magnitude of the show and the reach that it has, and how much it's brought many, many people together as friends, and sometimes married couples, and you see the families grow up together. So it's a really special thing to be part of, and I never take it for granted, and I'm always grateful to be there. So
yeah. Oh, that's such a lovely story. So I want to know, we've got some quick questions. One is, do you stay in touch with the rest of the Atlantis cast? I think we do know the answer to that, but you go ahead.
No, I don't really like them, actually.
All acting.
Yeah, sometimes, as much as we can. We're all obviously now, I talked to David, Jewel State and I are very, very good friends. We talk all the time. I had lunch with her like a week ago, and she's doing great right now. She's got a new series that she's starring in, which is amazing, called Family Law, shooting here. And David, I talked to not too long. David Nickel, I see time whenever. A lot of times at conventions we see them. I see Joe. Yeah. Joe and I have the same birthday, so we always text each other on birthdays, and back and forth. So that's always fun. And Jason, I haven't seen him for a while, but last time was Newfoundland. But I just I just love the guy, and I'm so happy for all his success. He deserves it, and I know when I see him, he'll give me a big bear hug. So it's all, And yeah, I run into some of the other casts here in town sometimes. From the other show, from SG1. It's always great to see them.
Yeah. Yes, thank you. Hands out tissues to
and
everyone.
Rainbow too. I talked to Rainbow a fair bit too. He's awesome too.
Well, you have been an absolute dream. And I have one last question for you, which is, if Stargate, and there seems to be so much love for it, if Stargate were to be rebooted in any way, what would you love to see for Carson Beckett? What would be the one thing that you'd love to see?
Give Beckett a wee bit of love, and maybe Beckett loves goddesses. I don't know if you know any, but there's a very, very sexy goddess floating around somewhere, I think. Renee, thank you very much. It'd be nice to see It'd be nice to see Beckett have a love interest. It'd be fun, and I would love to take part if it got reinvented in any capacity. It was such a fun show to work on, and I think the fans would be there for it. I think there is the fan base for it. So we'll see what happens. It'd be nice to be part of it, and you never know what the future can hold. It'd be a lot of fun, and to be there again. It was good. We were in San Diego last year. They did a kind of an anniversary of Stargate. I think 15th anniversary of Stargate Atlantis, and Joe Malazzi was there, and myself and Jewel and Gary Jones, who's hilarious. And we read some scenes from the script that was never made, and it was so much fun. And they put us in a room, I think that it held, I don't know, maybe 400 or 500 people, but it was packed, and people couldn't get into the lineup. So there's a lot of people that want to see Stargate, and hopefully something happens with it. It's fun.
From your lips to the gods' ears.
That's exactly it. And the goddesses.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. We can't wait to see you in Firefly Lane, was it? Yes. Lane. And all your other ventures. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, and it's so great that you're doing this, and you're so good at it. And it's lovely to see you, even virtually. But and to all the fans out there, thank you for tuning in and supporting this lovely lady, because you know what? It brings us all closer together again, and it brought up some memories, and you made me greet, for God's sakes. So it's just a pleasure to be on the show, and she has so many amazing guests coming up. I know Terrell's going to do it, and Amanda's going to interview you, which is fantastic. And I hope to see you all at a convention sometime when all this madness ends, and come over and give Dr. Beckett a hug.
Exactly. I can't wait when I see you. I'm going to give you a big, big bear.
Likewise, my friend. Thank you so much.
And just before I sign off, I just wanted to also say an enormous thank you to Drew Backer for tonight. Incredible producer who did the show. And Paul, in your own words, was a bit like, I don't know how to connect, which is what.
As my friend TJ says, you're a tech numpty. And I really am. I'm the worst. So this for me is, I was like, oh my God. And I could hear her on the other end trying to talk me through it. So I'm not like, David Julich's the most like his character. I'm not. So I'm not techie at all. But we're on here. We did it, and it all seemed to work out great. So
exactly, and I'm so delighted. We've had so many people join us. The interview will be up on IGTV tomorrow, or as soon as we can get it done. Also, a special thanks to Catherine Sigmund, who's been absolutely invaluable during this whole process, because I don't know much about YouTube, as I'm sure you. But I wanted to say thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I wish you a wonderful afternoon, a wonderful evening, morning, depending on where you are. And I won't see you next week. There is no Hathor hosts next week because I have a work conflict, but we'll be back the week after that. So sending lots and lots of love to you all. Good night. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, Suanne. Bye.
Bye.